are quite appreciative of being offered the opportunity to talk to you today about our Dream Team program that is available in many places across Ontario. And just to let you know that we do not have anything to disclose, but we do want to share that the information presented today is from our own perspective and is not yet a part of an external or independent evaluation. So, to set the stage, and certainly this will be very familiar to all of you in the roles that you have. We know that dementia is certainly expanding in numbers. So, we currently have over 334,000 individuals living with dementia in Ontario specifically. And this number will, in fact, triple by 2050, which really sounds far away, but isn't. And so, in thinking about that, we also know that, of course, people living with dementia are going through that journey, but also their families are. And so, from a care partner perspective, we know that there are, just shy of 200,000 care partners supporting people living with dementia right now, with an estimated 5.45 million hours of weekly care. And then we also put this in the context of the fact that certainly those being impacted by dementia, there's evolution with respect to who it's impacting. And the Alzheimer Society of Canada, the many faces of dementia in Canada, really speaks to the various groups and equity deserving groups that will be facing and are facing dementia at this time, and how that really does also impress upon us the importance of considering individualization and person-centered care in all of the work that we do. Very familiar to you is that certainly when people living with dementia present in the ED for either acute or non-acute reasons, they often experience situations, the environment, noise, um, and such that leads to responsive behaviors like pacing, verbalization, um, and it's really an overarching feeling of being overstimulated. So, in that context, we often see that people living with dementia end up moving from an ED visit for non-acute reasons and end up being admitted in some cases. And so we know that older adults living with dementia account for half of all of the alternate level of care days in Ontario, which is a substantial number. And when you think about the nuts and bolts of that, that means that approximately 3,000 beds are taken up by people living with dementia because they have nowhere else to go. Perhaps their families at home are not equipped to provide the care that they're needing because they may not have enough access to supports and services, or long-term care homes may be apprehensive in accepting the client because they do have, or patient, because they now have demonstrated responsive behaviors and they're questioning whether or not they are a fit for said location. And we also do know that once a person living with dementia is admitted into hospital, they are likely to stay there much longer. And unfortunately, in many cases, that there is the fact that there is hospital-induced harm that transpires. So we think about, restraints that are used, chemical and physical. We think about the fact that oftentimes delirium ensues, and we also think about the fact that that whole cluster of factors can also lead to falls. So there's so many things that lead us to a place where we collaboratively with many of our system partners want to reduce and limit this scenario of being admitted into an ALC bed. And to that end, we have a program called Dream that my colleague will speak to now in the coming slides.
Thank you, Christina. So I will give a quick shout out to Rose. So Rose Avery was part of the team that developed this idea, and we partnered, as the Alzheimer Society, partnered with the Brantford General Hospital. What we did is we essentially put one of our staff members who was familiar with the recommendations and strategies around responsive behavior, as well, very well equipped with community resource uh, ideas and where we can send people who are needing support for that support. Uh, this was really, it came to fruition through the pandemic, and they found that with the lack of resources out there, people were they just got to the end of their rope and they went to the emerge department. They didn't know where else to go. And at the end of that visit, as Christina said, they didn't feel comfortable to take them back home, and so these people were admitted to hospital. Um, when we say the dream team, this is not the Alzheimer Society sitting in the emerge department. This is the essentials of collaboration. This is a hospital representative. In Brantford, it's a hospital navigator. In some of our other sites, it could be the social worker, the charge nurse, and then also working very, very closely with Ontario Health at Home Care coordinators. And this, what it does is the strategies and sometimes the resources like respite that we put in place give Ontario Health at Home Care coordinators a little bit of a chance to get their supports in place, and we can send the patient home without actually admitting to the hospital. Next slide, Christine. Thanks. So what DREAM is, of course, everybody has to have an acronym for everything. So DREAM stands for Dementia Resource Education, Advocacy, and Mentorship. And this kind of includes all the aspects of what we provide at the bedside. When we introduced this team to some of the hospitals, some of them had GEM representation there. Some of them had admission avoidance teams. And it was kind of this little bit of initial feeling of, oh, they're going to step on toes. What are they there for? It's kind of redundant. But what we do, and in speaking with some of the GEM representatives who are actually on this call, I've seen some of you pop up, is we complement you extremely well, where you are providing a more of a medical wraparound care from that perspective. What we do is we model behaviors around how to deal with responsive behaviors so people don't become, as Christina said, chemically or physically restrained. And we also wrap around supports for the family. So we give that, this is what we provide to you if you're interested in becoming a client of the Alzheimer Society. I saw pop it up in the chat from a number of you that what your wish is for more collaboration or connecting with community partners. That is part of what we do. And we are able to do that follow up in community once that person goes home, which is integral to prevent someone coming back to the emerge. Next slide, please, Christina. We kind of call it the basic burger. So we've got those three portions. We got the top burger and the middle part and the bottom burger. So, or the bottom bun, sorry. So that is your hospital, your Alzheimer's Society representative, and the Ontario Health at Home Care Coordinator. Now, what you are as Jim, you are the ultimate condiment for this burger. You're the avocado, you're the aioli, you're the piece that adds to this basic burger. And again, what we're really trying to do is connect these people to community resources so they become more resilient when they're back in community, reduce that chance of going into ALC, and eventually really show the person living with dementia the dignity that they deserve at the bedside. We provide resources like music therapy, dull therapy, or the mechanical cat is awesome because everybody knows once you have a cat sleeping on your lap, you don't get up, so you don't have the chance of wandering around. Trust me, it really does work. But that's kind of the elements of the basic burger. Next slide, please. And we, again, try to model best practice. So a lot of times, and I have a nursing background, I've worked in acute care as well as a number of other areas. Our first instinct is safety, first of all, which is why we consider chemical and physical restraints. But we often try and correct people. So what we model at the bedside is we're not looking to correct anyone in the moment. We're really looking to provide dignity, respect, and care for that person. So maybe we just enter where they are in their reality at the time and not about disagreeing or correcting. And we look to the family. What has worked in the past for you? Let's get some personhood information going so that the medical team are able to kind of address their concerns and able to assess the client by using those personhood informations. Next slide, please.
Hey, and so I will speak now to expansion. So we were very fortunate that in the context of our Alzheimer's Society Federation of 26 locations, we have many that had both the interest and the ability to secure funding through OH to bring the Dream Team model to several hospitals across Ontario. And so we have just over 17 sites participating in the Dream Team currently. And certainly, as Janine has mentioned, thinking about the burger model, in every location, it looks slightly different. The burgers may have different condiments, but at the end of the day, the main goals, the burger, the meat, they are there. And so we are really excited about this piece. And we actually have quite a number of other locations that have put their hand up to say, we would like to see the Dream Team in our area because of the results that we are learning about. And I'll speak to the results momentarily. The one thing right now is that aside from a couple of hospitals, this program is not receiving base funding. And so we're in that position of waiting to discern whether or not continued funding will transpire. And obviously, we're in a place of advocacy because of the value and the outcomes that we are seeing. And so when I speak to the outcomes, this is to let you know that in fiscal year 23-24, over 3,500 people living with dementia were served, which is quite a substantial number. And we know that more than 2,000 of those folks were diverted out of the hospital and back into the community because of the wraparound supports that were provided. And so an average hospital diversion rate sits around 55 to 60%. So when you think about at a personal level, the impacts, this is huge. They're able to go home into an environment that is supportive. And certainly we know home is, without a doubt, the preference of most in the context of supporting a person living with dementia across the trajectory of dementia. But then we also think about system cost savings and how to best leverage resources to maximize where supports are needed and so forth. So this slide really excites us. And as we continue to grow and spread the program, we are going to continue to delve into further data. And as Janine mentioned, when we think about the outcomes and the value of them, this is very much rooted in the fact that although certainly the person living with dementia is a strong focus of the program, the support for the care partner is paramount. And so we know that care partners often experience burnout. They oftentimes are not aware of the services that they require. And the emergency department ends up being a place of last resort when there feels like there are no additional options available to help move forward. And so, in that context, the care partners are provided a whole host of education opportunities about the really truly the trajectory of dementia, all the way from early stages through end of life and so forth. And related to that, there are quite a number of referrals that are made. And so, the Alzheimer Societies work with a whole host of referral sources, but noting that we do not just work within the healthcare system. So, we are also looking at other areas, including legal supports, housing supports, food supports, and so forth. So we really do look to really look at the person holistically and to meet all of their needs that could trigger a crisis at some point in the future and try to mitigate that risk. And certainly with consent, we offer updates to other healthcare professionals. So thinking again to the chat that we saw just a few moments ago, this fact of interdisciplinary care and collaboration is really critical so that there is not this siloed approach to care. And additionally, we do see and know that in-home respite can be quite helpful for families. And where it's wanted, we offer an average of 4 to 12 hours of in-home respite care to support the person living with dementia so the care partner can have that opportunity to do whatever it is that they would like, whether it's leaving the house, taking a nap, so on and so forth. And certainly, one of the goals is that the clients are linked to the Alzheimer Society as a whole, because we do through our supports of First Link and Care Navigation, we follow the clients all the way through to the end of their dementia trajectory, and also support care partners through to end of life and short-term bereavement. And so again, the complement of services and supports are huge. But then from a person living with dementia perspective, we also are very much focusing on what other resources can be availed to them to help improve their quality of life and to stay engaged and to reduce isolation and to reduce missing incidents and so forth. So this includes, supports and services like day program, looking at respite services, looking at recreational services, and where appropriate, supporting families in applying for long-term care admission and so forth. And yeah, so that's the supports and services provided. And then when we think to feedback, Janine, I'll turn it back to you to talk about both hospital feedback and client feedback.
Thank you. I believe you're going to be getting some of these slides, so I won't read them out loud for you. I just want to highlight again and shout out. I had the pleasure of talking to Paulina, who's a gem nurse out of London Health Sciences, who gave me a bit of insight into what that partnership looks like and the complement of services that we can provide for the client at the bedside in the time of their most, for some, their greatest need. And then you can go to the next slide. Again, I'll let you read those on your own. Um, what I want to say is just the recognition of the stigma of dementia. As soon as you say, why don't you go to the Alzheimer Society, or they consider that, the first thought for some of these people is, well, they're going to take away my license. Well, then I have to admit that I have dementia, and I don't have dementia, I just have memory problems. The Alzheimer Society covers all of that support, any kind of cognitive decline. And so part of the Dream Team's hope is that when people come to the Emerge, especially when there are some social aspects of support that are lacking for that family, that they consider it like going to the grocery store and then they see peanut butter and they say, oh, I didn't realize I needed peanut butter, but there it is right there, and maybe I'll take it home. That's kind of what we're hoping. As far as supports from the Alzheimer's Society, if we stand in front of them, maybe they're and they see that we're not threatening, that we are there to support, that we are there to partner with our the rest of our community resources and things like that, that we can work together. And that is really how we want to work with you folks as the GEM teams, and we can really, again, as Christina said, holistically come around this entire support system for the family, or if they don't have a support system, that we build one with them.
So thank you. And I know we just have a very small sliver of time, if not, maybe not at all, for a question, but we're happy to answer questions after the fact if any are directed our way.
Thank you both. Excellent presentation, and feel free for our colleagues in the audience. Feel free to pop questions in the chat. If you've got a couple of minutes to stay on and watch the chat, maybe you can respond on the fly. I'm going to invite